Hello, everybody. Arkansas Minuteman 0864 here. Today, I'm going to push out the first part of my Macv Sog RT team member loadout. Part one will cover his uniform and everything that was recommended per Project Delta B52 to be carried on the uniform. Now, and I'll state this in the video also as a reminder, this is only a way for them to carry their equipment. This is not the only way. What they carried on their person and in their pockets of their uniforms, as well as their rucksack and also their web gear, was dependent upon the mission, how long they were going to be out, and anything else that comes down from higher. A lot of the team leaders over there were experienced, and they knew exactly what they had to carry, and they knew how they carried it. And some of them started out going straight by the book, and they soon realized that for them it did not work. So they started changing it up. They would move stuff around to different pockets and made it easier for them so that they knew where it was at and easier for them to get a hold of it when they needed to. So now let me put in my disclaimer for the YouTube idiots out there. The weapons and ordnance that are being shown in these three parts of this video, they were all bought by my own money. The weapons are live, but they are not being put up for sale. Anything that might possibly fall underneath the ITARs regulations for export out of the country, that meaning that they would need to have government approval and a license from the government to export it, are not being sold and are not being exported. Again, no weapons are for sale on any of these vehicles on these videos. All ordnance is inert and training aids, and nothing is being exported, period. So anything that would fall underneath the ITAR's export regulations is not being exported, and everything meets the federal government rules, regulations, policies, and whatnot. So with that being said, let's get into part one of Macv Sog RT team members loadout. Hello, everybody. Arkansas Minuteman 0864 here. This is bringing you part one of RT team members loadout from Macv Sog during the Vietnam War. And we're going to start with his uniform in this part and what all that they would carry on their uniform. The number one uniform that they preferred over in Nam was the tiger stripe uniform. It was unofficially adopted by SOG and its team members and later the LRP teams, but the regular Army never adopted it. They found that the OG 107 jungle fatigues actually stood out like a sore thumb in the jungle. Tiger Stripes was developed off an old French lizard design camo, was adopted by the Vietnamese to begin with, and it was later adopted by SOG members for use. So now we're going to go into the uniform. Now we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. Footwear would have been the canvas and leather jungle boots. There were actually two different style soles on them. The later version was the Panama sole, as seen here. The other one was a Vibram sole, and they were actually issued more than the Panama sole was, since It was late in the war when the Panama style come out. The Panama style allowed mud to fall out of the treads of the soles better. It would add on the Army issued green socks, the Army issued green t-shirt, and the Army green boxer type underwear. But a lot of the guys actually found it, especially in the Mekong Delta area and places like that they went barefooted in their boots. They wore no underwear and they wore no t-shirts. They just wore the uniform and boots. Went commando on everything else. Over here, you see tiger stripes working their way from ankles up. And these would have been worn outside of the boots, not worn bloused into boots. On the right leg, on the cargo pocket over here, they would have had a bottle of insect repellent. And the left cargo pocket above that small cigarette pocket, they carried the emergency URC 10 radio, as seen here. And that is an original radio, but that is imitation battery on it that a guy made for me by 3D printing it. Moving over to his right leg over here, in the cargo pocket, he would have carried a cut down signal panel, one LARP ration, and he also would have carried an emergency pin flare set. And yes, that is a live set of pin flares right there. That set's been with me through several conflicts during my career. Up here around his waist, he would have had the Army issue belt. However, a lot of them, in order to have an extra bandage, would actually take a olive drab triangular bandage and run it through the belt loops and use it as a bandage. Not a bandage, but as his belt. That would have given him another bandage to use. In his right hip pocket, it would have had a Heinke 550 paracord. All right. Now, over here for the shirt, aviator style gloves were very popular during the Vietnam War being worn. They also wore the issued black leather work gloves and also the white leather heavy duty work gloves. And a lot of times they would go and cut the fingers off so that they were kind of like, the fingers would come up to about their knuckles and the last half of their fingers would be exposed. This was to protect their hands from thorns and briars and other brush out there, elephant grass, which would cut you open like a razor blade. Now going up on the left-hand side of the shirt here, and this top pocket, it would have had one signal mirror. It would have had a small notepad, this protractor, a pencil, and it would have had a section of the map in the area that they were working on. And usually that map only covered 10 kilometers square. That's 10 kilometers across, 10 kilometers down. And that gave them plenty of area to work within, but it also limited if the map got captured by the NVA or the Viet Cong, that they wouldn't know the whole operational plan. So all of this went into the left upper pocket of the shirt. Around his neck, he would have worn another triangular OD bandage, and he would have used that if needed be for a bandage, or he used it to wipe the sweat off of his face. He would have had a Army issued watch run through the top button hole of his shirt and hanging from there. Going over to the right-hand pockets, it would have had his compass. It would have had an Air Force issued pin light. And yes, this is an actual issued one, and it is from the late 60s. It would have also carried in there 4 morphine stirrets in case he got wounded. All of that would have been up here in this pocket right here. Up above, I've got 3 hats out here. The tiger stripe hat was very popular, and everyone that, all of them would take a orange VS17 panel and cut it down, and they would sew it into the top, as on this one right here. A lot of them also, and my cousin actually did also, wore a black boonie hat, and it's also got a VS17 orange panel sewn in the top of it. And they would wear that because if the NVA or VC saw them with that hat on, it was very similar to the boonie style hat that the VC wore. So it would kind of throw them off a little bit. So, give you a complete overview here. This is also a period right heavy rubberized poncho. One of the few that I actually have found that's still in good condition. Give you another overview of everything here. This is going to be in 3 parts. Next part will be the web gear and what he carried on his web gear. Now, mind you, I'm showing you pretty much what is coming straight out of Project Delta B52 Techniques, Tactics, and Procedures book that was written by the recon school down at Da Nang. And all of this is a basis that they built off of. Missions dictated what got switched out, what got carried, what got deleted, dictated where it got carried, and everything else. So this is just an example. This is a way for them to carry their stuff. It is not the only way. Everything was mission dependent. So, with that being said, stay tuned for part 2. And I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing so far.